Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Councilor Wondolowski.
I'd like to call this Community Relations Committee meeting to order. It's 6:00, 6:01. This meeting is being recorded by the Community Relations Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Okay, no one else is doing their thing. Then we will do a roll call. We've got all of our committee members here, do we?
No, well, except for Sheila.
Yeah, who is not remote, so we can actually do a voice vote. So thank you all for being here. If anybody wants to be part of public comment, please sign up. And for Zoom, we'll just have to have you put it in the chat since there isn't a place to do that. So we'll have time today for public comment. So I will take a roll call of members. Oh, and we will have to do it because of Councilor Healy being here. All right. So Councilor Gilmore. Councilor Healy.
Here.
Councilor Brown. Here. Councilor Perry.
Here.
Councilor Wondolowski, I'm here. Okay. So our first item is the approval of minutes from the July 15th meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for the July 15th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, so we'll have to take a roll call again. Councilor Healy.
Yes.
Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
And I am a yes. All right, we're doing well. Okay, my first time chairing this committee, so rough day. So our next item is public comment. We're going to give and Kirsten, we've got time on the agenda for the discussion about the benches, so you don't have to do any public comment unless you want to do both. All right. So I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes each for your public comments, and you can come up to the chair when you're called up. And when you come up, I just need you to state your name and your address for the record. So Emily Kester, thank you, Emily. Amazing how that works. Hi, thanks for being here.
My name is Emily Kester. I live at 87 Davis Street in Greenfield. And I'm here to speak in support of the climate resolution that's being brought before this. I recognize that, a small city of 15,000 isn't going to make a huge dent in climate change one way or another, but I think that it's very important as a symbol of our commitment, and also that it can be a domino effect. If we do it and other communities do it, then it can have a large impact. So I'm in support. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Do you want to be part of public comment, sir? We have a sign-up sheet, so it's, yeah, I do. Okay. Next person is Bram Moranis.
Hi, I'm Bram Moranis. I live in Greenfield and am, like Emily, one of the organizers. 16 Myrtle Street. And like Emily, one of the organizers of Resilient Greenfield, which started with the question, given the impact of the climate on our society, how can we be ready? How can we build social resilience? Because we're going to need it. So I'm really in support of Councilor Wondolowski's climate resolution. Like Emily, I don't know that we're going to be able to keep things below 1.5 degrees through the work of our town. But what I'd love to see is once the city elevates the sense that there's an emergency and that we need to do something about it, it opens up the way for more citizens groups who have some role to play in making us more resilient and using the climate as a backdrop to the work that we do, to have the ear and perhaps support of the city. So that's why I really support this resolution. I also, not as resilient Greenfield, but just as myself, about the benches. I go on hikes with my dog, and now because she has hip dysplasia myself all the time, and I always end up in Mesa Verde because you can have a dog outside. And I'm always walking through that area and sometimes engaging with the folks at the tables. I was sad to see them go, the tables. And I'm just curious, what problem were we hoping to solve by removing the tables? If the problem wasn't the benches and the tables, but the individuals who were there, was there some other way to resolve it that could leave the benches and the tables? Because I think it's nice to have them. I'm complete. Thank you.
We have next.
Next is Kristen.
We're skipping over. You.
Oh, John Garrett.
Hello. John Garrett, 93 Hope Street here in Greenfield. I just wanted to speak briefly about both resolutions on the table. So the climate resolution, I am fully in support of, and I would love to see pass. I see it as almost a thesis statement for the city, meaning like this is our mission. This is something that's going to be a reason to focus on certain policies in the future because we've made this statement. So I think that's really valuable as a thing we can continue coming back to as a city government and, as the other speakers have said, as a community. So it gives us all kind of a guiding star to look at. I sponsored the Northern Tier Passenger Rail Resolution in response to basically the three members of the state legislature coming and answering our questions. When I asked them, hey, what can we do as a community to support the Northern Tier Resolution? The Northern Tier service, which would be, going from Boston to North Adams. They said basically saying something like a resolution of the state before the budget season in January would be the best thing that we could do. I was frankly going to add it as a discussion item in December, and then I saw that North Adams had already passed a resolution. So I just blatantly copied it. And I emailed them and I said, hey, do you mind if I do this? They said, yes, by all means. And so I copied it, basically changed a couple of things to be more Greenfield appropriate. And I hope you guys see it in your wisdom to support it. Having passenger rail would be huge and tie into these climate goals that I hope the city is going to be following. As far as the benches are concerned, I was also upset to see them go. One of the things, again, talking about like thesis statements, again, what's our mission as a city? Having our downtown be beautiful and welcoming to everyone, I think is the thing that we all want to focus on as a city, including the mayor. So I hope this is the beginning of a conversation and not the end of one regarding that area of town. So that's all I've got. But thank you guys.
Thank you.
I'll see you all the next couple of days.
Next is Sage.
Hello. My name is Sage Trito. I live in Northampton, but I am about to be a business owner in Greenfield. Should I tell you my Northampton address?
Yes, please.
Okay, 55 Golden Drive, Florence. So starting in December, I'm going to be a business owner of what was formerly 10 Forward. So I'm coming here also to talk about the benches and the tables. The first people that welcomed me into the space were actually the unhoused community. Those are the people who came, introduced themselves, showed me kindness. And taking away something like this impacts everyone in the city and in this physical space. So I'm just concerned that these items were removed, what the goal of that was, and how that will impact everyone in the city. But also just like the blatant like anti-homelessness of doing something like that. It's not solving the problem that people are seeing people as a problem as opposed to homelessness and struggling with that as a problem. So yeah, I was concerned and confused by that decision.
Great, thank you.
Eli?
Hi, my name's Eli Smith. I live in Turner's Falls, but I'm a worker owner of the Compost Cooperative, which is on River Street in Greenfield. And I wanted to come to speak in favor of the declaration of a environmental emergency. Obviously, like our business is to collect compost and to try and reduce our trash, our waste in this system, and to create a product that will improve our environment with a lot of that waste instead. So it's like totally within our mission to support this, and we really hope the town does do this. And we see it's just really important to prioritize that and like name it explicitly. And also that the Northern Tier passenger rail, as someone said before me, like fits perfectly within that, especially if it could be electrified. That is an amazing step towards climate goals and just improvement of our community. I think that travel would be amazingly helpful for anyone without vehicles. I think we should prioritize public transit like that because there are a lot of people who don't have cars. And right now, a car is just the best way to get to Boston right now, unfortunately. But yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. That's on the list.
That's the end unless. Yeah, other folks
All right.
want to sign up for public comment.
Is
Someone's in the waiting.
anyone, does anybody in the Zoom room wish to be part of public comment? If so, you can unmute yourself and you'll have 2 minutes.
So you might have to say that again because somebody just joined.
Okay. One more time, is anybody in the virtual world wish to be part of public comment? If so, you can unmute yourself and now is the time. All right, it is 6:14 and we're ending the public comment period. Thank you all for participating. Really appreciate hearing from everybody. So next on our agenda is the City Council order, that is the resolution declaring a climate emergency. Could I have somebody read this motion, please?
I guess I will. The city council moved that it be, this is order number FY 25020. The city council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council approves the attached resolution titled Resolution Declaring a Climate Emergency. My majority vote required. I have to read the whole thing?
No. Okay. We're good on that part. Thank you, Wynn. So as a body, we read it first and it's going to go to the full council. We can make a recommendation as a committee if we recommend that the full council pass this or not. So we would need a motion to recommend it if somebody wants to do so.
Motion to open.
I'll second.
And is there any discussion?
Seems great. Okay, we like this. Yeah, I like what John said, that this is like a mission statement and then we can be making choices according to this.
There might be a little bit more discussion in front of the full council, and that's fine.
Yeah, my understanding in bringing this forward is from talking to city employees, this gives them the ability to move forward on some of the things that they've been proposing. And, our cities and towns have a lot that they can do that help us with the climate crisis. And and I'll say this on Wednesday, but the flooding that we've seen here in Greenfield, all of the issues that we've seen around the country and wildfires popping up again. So we're not immune to it, and it is like a public health crisis because this affects people's health for sure, now and into the future. And we're an aging population that is much more at risk for the effects of heat-related illness. So thank you all. We can take a vote to put it forward.
And just one other comment is that I'm attending the Green Communities Summit that the Mass Municipal Association is hosting on Friday. And I'm hoping to learn more there about the Green Communities designation and the climate leader designation. And those applications are due by the end of this year. So we can start, I'm setting up a meeting with Carol Cleveland's the sustainability director, and I'm hoping that, yeah, we can get involved and open up those municipal grants.
But yeah, in the green communities, we've been a member since like one of the first cities in the Commonwealth, so.
Pretty good.
Not bad, not bad. So we're gonna take a roll call on this because we have to. So Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Brown,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so we will be forwarding that recommendation. So the next motion in front of us is the Northern Tier support. Could I have a counselor read this order?
Which is order number FY 25-021. The city council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council approves the attached resolution entitled Resolution for Northern Tier Support. A majority vote will be required.
Great, any discussion? Do we want to do the same as we just did with the?
Yeah, I make a motion that we recommend that we forward this to the full council.
Yeah.
Second?
Any discussion? All right, let's go for a vote. All right, Counselor Healy.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Brown,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and I am a yes. All right, so we will be recommending the Northern Tier as well. All right, now we're at the meat and tofu of the meeting to discuss the benches. So the process that I'd like to follow this evening, if it's okay with everybody, is to have either the mayor and Chief Dodge for about 5-10 minutes, however long, a little bit of time, just talk about what happened, reasoning on that. And then I've asked Kirsten to also talk to us a little bit about her perspective, working with the community. We're not making any decisions here where we can't reverse anything. There could be recommendations that came out of this committee, but really we want to open up a community conversation because this happened really rapidly, and it was voted on the city council to bring it back to community relations for discussion. Sound good? All right. And if there are folks in the room who have perspectives, I might call on you to do that, but usually our rules are we're not like doing cross conversation unless there's expertise to bring in. All right, so Mayor and Chief, thank you for being here.
So I'll start. I'm delighted that we're all here tonight talking about this. First, I'll say that, and thank you for everybody for coming out. This was something that it wasn't probably as quickly as it looked. I just wanted to say that to start. And as I said in that meeting, that was a really very difficult decision for me to make, but it started the end of June, or sometime in June that we were getting multiple complaints from different folks. And there were people that were having trouble getting their strollers, walking the strollers or having, access on the sidewalk down on Miles Street. I've spent a lot of time down there. I know probably half the folks that are there. I've been down there talking with them, having lunch when we sitting with everybody. So I feel like I know a lot of the people that are there too. And they are our neighbors and they're here in our community. And it was difficult. We had more and more problems that sort of kept escalating there. And it was something that I reached out to, I'm not going to say her name, but someone from Community Action that was over talking with the folks that were there. Because everybody actually has a right to be, they have a right to be where they are. So we were trying to do something. So when one of the first things that happened was, after several incidences, I shut off the charger where people plug in their phones. And I told everybody that we'd ordered another solar charger for down at Energy Park. But it was actually the presence on the sidewalk that was, so it was not going from here to there in a rapid, in any rapid steps. I think it was 2.5 months. I was, talked to economic development. Sean, well, I would like to say that she was out there visiting with folks, telling some of the things that were happening. And we ordered a couple more Adirondack chairs for down at Energy Park. I had told everybody that you actually can't say to somebody, maybe you could go down there, but it was an impediment to people getting by in the sidewalk. And I will let the chief go to some of the events that we had happened there. But I just wanted you to know from a personal perspective, that was not a decision that was made lightly. It was very difficult for me. During COVID, I spent hours down at Energy Park with people, bringing water, worrying about where everybody was going to be. And I thought when we first removed them, everybody kind of, just moved over just a little bit, but I'm going to let the chief talk about some of the stuff that actually went on for why you would get to a decision that actually seems like it's really quick, but it wasn't quick. It was 2.5 months talking about things that we could do that would make people feel a little bit more welcome in a different spot, and certainly talking to the people that were there. And so, but I'm going to let you, Chief, talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that was going on that led us to this, what might have seemed like a hasty decision, but it was something that I signed off on at 3:30 in the morning because I couldn't go to sleep thinking about it. And I think we should all know that about each other. That's where we are. So go ahead.
So again, it is absolutely a perspective issue, 100%. But to bring more to the table, this is much longer than even a 2.5 month discussion. So I've been here for 27 years patrolling the streets of Greenfield. I would like to bet that there's not many faces out there that I don't know and who don't call me Todd. And I don't ask them to call me anything other than that. I treat people fairly. What burns my blood is when people continue to label this an anti-homeless issue. This has nothing to do with that. The word homeless or unhoused came in from other people, not us. I just want to make that extremely clear. We were not in any way, shape, or form discriminating against unhoused people. This had nothing to do with that. In fact, I think our agency, ahead of many in this community, do things for the unhoused probably far more than any other agency does. We're constantly interacting with them. We're constantly bringing them supplies, tents, sleeping bags, sweatshirts. We're not anti-homeless, so please stop with that. It's not that. What we were dealing with was a park-like activities being done on a sidewalk. We can't do that. And again, and you guys are known, you guys in city council now, I'm sure are very well aware, for every one person you make happy, you make one person mad. There's just simply no way to do anything different than that. Our goal is to make, if we make one person mad, maybe we can make 1.1 happy, and then we got the majority. I don't know. In this particular case, I've sat in all the meetings. Yes, there are people who are absolutely upset with us because we decided to move the benches. First and foremost, it was me pleading with the mayor after 27 years of experience working in Greenfield exclusively, begging her in person via email to please listen to me and move the benches. They never accomplished what the original objective is. The original objective is a group of people strolling down Main Street shopping, who have a coffee, who want to stop, talk, read the, it never ends up like that. It's not what we're going to get. What I also explained was they are doing park-like activities on a sidewalk. I'm not opposed to these people being in Greenfield. Just they can't do what they're doing right there. We had constant calls for service at the benches.
Yeah, something the way.
These were medical emergencies. These were fights. These were people with weapons, people selling drugs, people doing drugs. We're constantly at the benches in Greenfield. The bigger part, and really the only part that we were focused on, is creating a downtown that is inviting to everybody. Not just the people sitting at the benches, but people who are traveling through Greenfield or potentially setting up shop in Greenfield, or who wanted to walk the streets of Greenfield to shop. We needed to do something about that one particular area. The mayor can affirm what I'm saying. We never once said we need to eradicate these people. We said we need to move them off of a sidewalk. We both talked the entire time about just putting them into the pocket park. If they're going to be running around and kicking their feet, I know no one wants to talk about this, but stuff was happening on the sidewalk that can't happen on sidewalks. Plain and simple. And yes, people couldn't push their strollers by. People were going to the bathroom right on the side of the road when people are trying to navigate the sidewalks. They're now down in the pocket park. I see, we watch this every day, and it's fine. Since these individuals started hanging out in the pocket park, we haven't said a word to them. So we're not anti-unhoused. We're not anti this group of people. We just needed them to get off the sidewalk. To set up that sort of system on the side of a sidewalk was counterproductive, and it's been counterproductive for decades. We've crossed this a million times. If you guys look at the vet mall used to have seating around all the planters. If you look now, they're all wrought iron fences around the planters because the same thing was happening. So decades ago, that was an attack on the vet mall to try to keep a clean vet mall, is put these planters around it so it's not seating area, because people put their bags, they throw their trash in it, they do all this stuff. Now, we had asked them countless times to just follow some very particular rules here. Stop throwing your trash, stop littering the place, stop fighting, stop throwing, and it didn't happen. So like I said, I explained to the mayor and we had this conversation. I said, the stuff they're doing in that particular location, we have many places for in this town. They're called parks. And that's where they need to go, is parks. So the pocket park was right there. And they're at the pocket park every single day still. Adding to that, we were dealing with 300 plus calls for service just there every single month. That's not us calling us to go there. People are calling us to go there. That's how police works. We're dispatched down there for yet another fight, for another person out of control, for another this, another that. And statistically now that's cut down to thirds. So since we moved these benches, we're dealing with the people who people don't want us to deal with less, if you can get what I'm saying. Some people don't want us in these people's business. Well, we're not there anymore because we don't have a reason to be. People are not calling us anymore. So our calls for service downtown have been cut in thirds. To me, that's a success. And guess what? The people are still there. They just moved over about 80 feet.
And could I just, there were, drug deals that were happening right there. People that were using, be it complaints from families, and, fights and arrests that were happening, because of the activity, which those things are going to be somewhere, but it's really very hard to balance and make these decisions, but there were an escalating of all of the, a lot of it was illegal activity that was happening right there as well, and complaints from, numerous citizens. So I can see both sides of this, but in the end, it was like, what was the greater good here? So, I went down and explained that was, took the ownership for that. And, So we didn't have a meeting like this, but it wasn't like we didn't talk to anyone either. So there were social service things that, agencies that were consulted, people that went over there to try to encourage, movement away from the sidewalk in a kind and respectful manner. But, yeah.
And if you don't mind, we accelerated the start of our police civilian liaison position. That was going to be more of a delay. We accelerated that to first start addressing this problem, as we saw as a problem. So our liaison spent a lot of time down there with the individual. So it wasn't like we just said, hey, I know how to do it, let's move benches. We actually asked through our liaison and directly by ourselves. I walked it, she walked it, our officers walk it every day. We actually communicated with this group. The vast majority are very respectful people. There's no question about it. And we would ask, here's what we need to see. We need the sidewalks opened up. People need to be able to pass the sidewalks. The minute we walk away, it would just resume back to status quo. And we'd be back. And again, we were very patient, contrary to what it appears to be. We were very patient. The liaison spent hours down there, hours and hours, literally sitting at the benches, trying to explain, listen, don't ruin this for yourselves. Otherwise, other moves are going to have to be made here. We need you to stop treating the sidewalk like a park. So again, it was only after dozens upon dozens of calls for service, so to speak, at the pocket or at the benches that we finally said, obviously, we can't make a change here without making a physical change. We need them to push into the park. The mayor was really pushing for the energy park. If anybody in city government or who's been watching for any number of years knows, that was our last issue, was the energy park. So a large amount of people in Greenfield wanted the energy park open back up because people were camping out there. They were defecating and urinating everywhere, leaving their personal property, trash, litter, etc. So 8 years ago, not even 5, 6 years ago, everybody put pressure on the police to solve the energy park problem. How do you do it? To be fair to everybody, how do you do it? It's not an easy thing when you tell people you got to go. None of us like to do that. I can assure you. We hear from everybody. We try to balance things out. And what I heard, at least in my world, I guess, was the vast majority said, I would really like downtown Greenfield to look better. Meaning, if I'm going to walk, I don't want to see a wrestling match at Mile Street. And they were happening every single day. Yeah, the vast majority were play fighting. They are playing. But again, what that says is that's recreation on a sidewalk. Recreate in a park. We have 2 of them right adjacent to that spot.
Great. Thank you both.
Yep.
And, we know that it was a difficult decision. I appreciate the amount of time that went into thinking it through, and there aren't any easy solutions. So counselors, questions for the mayor?
Just 2 quick questions, Chief. Do you think it would have been a little bit different had the substation been up and running as this was going on?
I think so. I have a lot of hope for the substation. We would have been right there more often. Based on our challenge of getting people hired, which is weird, and getting the substation redone. Yeah, I mean, I can't predict the future, but I feel better about it. But again, I have seen for a long time, even when, I'm old enough where I actually worked when we were downtown, when it was 253 Main Street.
You are old.
Old. 27 years in. So just having a police department down there does not change everything. It really doesn't. And reality is you only have so many people trying to solve whatever problems happen in the city, right? And this is a city, which I'm thankful that we have small town atmosphere, but there are city-like problems that trickle in. Call volumes are extremely high. I'm not here to make excuses for anything. It's not what I'm not trying to increase my budget. But they are what they are. We're over 40,000 calls for service a year. And that's, 4 people rolling around. So, we get 7 people a day calling in mad about speeders on such and such street. And when one person complains about their street, 52 others chime in because they got all speeders on their street. We have issues downtown. Again, our focus in this particular issue was to try to start talking about downtown. I think we all want a more vibrant business district. And again, this is more of a long range conversation is how do we improve Greenfield? Well, first of all, I know everybody hates, well, not everybody, but a lot of people hate the fact that we are charged with maintaining order. Well, we are charged with maintaining order. We can't take that out of our equation. So this was disorderly on the regular, and I have the data to show you. I mean, this isn't something we're making up. It's all in your police logs. It was a disorderly location that needed to be addressed. Again, not to reiterate, but we addressed it in a soft manner for a long time, only to be refused any kind of change. They just would not make a change to what we were asking them to do. So what do you do next? You got to change the physical environment. And that's what I explained to the mayor. I said, we've been through this before. The only solution I see, it's not to get rid of the people. We want to move the people. We like the people. I know them all, like I said, on a first name basis. I brought them food. I bring them stuff. They bring me stuff. We're good. It's just don't do it here. And when you get that sort of mob mentality of everybody together, no one's policing anybody. And it kind of just goes south. It gets unorganized, it gets unruly, and then we're called, we look like the bad guy. Well, in this particular case, like I said, we're down there very little to that spot now. We almost don't have to go there anymore. So some would claim that to be a victory. We're not interacting with these people because they're concerned that our interactions are negative. Well, we're not then. Because we moved them. So we have no problem.
Councilor Perry.
Oh, was there any thought about putting the tables and the benches in the pocket park?
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. It's just not an easy move because
Right.
DPW.
I think that might have solved some of the people's initial reaction.
But the problem is the minute they move down in there, and this is the thing, this is what we talked about. The reality of this situation is everybody advocates for them until they're in their own backyard. The minute they moved into the pocket park, we already had people show up complaining. How do you win it? I don't know.
Councilor Healy has a question. Councilor Healy?
It's more of a comment than a question. So I have quite a few things to touch base on this, but one thing I'd like to remind you all is, down at the Green River Park, when we experienced the flooding, the police were the first people there helping the homeless evacuate their tents and find them shelters in the city of Greenfield. I think we do a very good job living with the homeless population in Greenfield. And it comes down to a matter of mutual respect, right? And when people are disrespecting sidewalks and disrespecting ordinances and doing things that are harmful. I've been on Main Street and I had somebody personally threaten me before. I'm not a small guy, so I'm not worried about it, but I can only imagine what some families feel like walking down Main Street when they're being threatened verbally. So I think the decision to kind of clean up Main Street was a great decision, right? I do also know the people that live down at the Green River Park. I play football there every Sunday. Those people come out, they watch us play football. We eat lunch with them, we feed them. They're great people, right? I just think that there has to be a mutual respect there. And if you're not following the rules, that unfortunately there's discipline in this world. If you can't follow the rules, you have to be disciplined. It's no different, right? So I think it was a good move. I think it was a soft move. I think it moved people away from the sidewalks where these problems were happening. So I totally support this 100%. I think you did a great job. And I've seen it. You guys have been more than respectable to the homeless community. And I appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Brown?
My questions are, is the charging station working in Energy Park? If that was ordered, and is that running?
The charging station is not in yet. It came in about, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. And it has not been put in yet. We have I actually think we'll probably do that in the spring. But I know it's gonna go next to the solar panels. And may I answer?
Oh, yeah.
So we did talk about moving that. The chess table needed a concrete pad. I can't tell you how much I hated pulling that out. It was awful. It was really like, I'm suffering here, sitting here, because if you knew how I felt about all of this, really, it was terrible decision to make, but I thought, and then the benches were I couldn't see a way so we had Adirondack, which actually goes in the grass.
Sure.
So we thought about that. I'm sorry,
Right.
Sarah, to council. So, But so you had another question, but I just wanted to answer that one.
My second question was that I heard that the Wi-Fi was also shut off in that area. Is that true? Or I don't know what the situation is on public Wi-Fi in that zone.
No, there's no, well, I'm not the IT wizard here, so.
Yeah, I don't know either, no.
Okay.
But there's Wi-Fi, no, well, if I would have known if somebody asked to do that, we just shut the charging,
Just an outlet.
charge, and there's another outlet that's actually by the edge of the parking lot down at Energy Park, but I like that because it's in the sun and right by the pavement, and I thought, I actually liked Energy Park as a place, that's what was used a lot during COVID. It is grass, and who wouldn't want a place in the shade, which is why everyone was up towards the sidewalk. And so I understand it. If it's sunny out, where are you going to be? You're going to be in the shade. And that was the only spot, which is why everybody was together there. Makes sense. If you go for a walk, you go for a walk down a shady street, right? The ones with the beautiful trees, that's where we all go. So that's where everybody wanted to be. So I thought Energy Park has some nice space in the shade. It's a solar charger, so it has to be put in the sun. We're going to put the, Adirondack chairs that then people come over. The whole thing was actually, there was a little journey going. Daisy changed that the Adirondack chairs down, because there's sometimes we'd be like 50 people. And remember, we were getting complaints from people that couldn't get by, or from business owners, or from people who were afraid. So, and so we daisy changed the chairs together, and then, 4 people with the daisy chain brought the 4 chairs up, the Adirondack chair. So, and it was the shadiest place. So, yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Kirsten from
Mhm.
Stone Soup Cafe to give a little her perspective.
So I open up to everybody.
Sees a lot of people every week.
Yeah, I see a lot of people and I feed a lot of people. And the first thing I want to say is, gosh, guys, what a hard decision. And thank you so much for all the service you do for us. And I'm not here to point fingers. Like, seriously, I got invited because my friend Laura said, hey, would you come? And I'm like, yeah, sure, here I am. We work with the same population, and I have the added benefit that I have larger community also participating at Stone Soup. I just have to say, as a resident of Greenfield, I had a couple of really uncomfortable encounters this summer while being at Ice Cream Alley, to the point where it's like, you know what, we're taking our ice cream to go. And it broke my heart. It breaks my heart to be that transparent with you as well. But what I was witnessing hurt so bad, to see people struggling with the disease of addiction and alcoholism, struggling with being impoverished and trying to do the best they could, struggling with having no place else to be. And I actually think that that's the larger conversation that this city has to have, is how do we actually take care of our neighbors and community members that have no place to go during the day or the night. I am, Chief knows this, I am no stranger to people who are living houseless. I had a previous mayor evacuate the entire town square because we were holding a harvest supper, and he blamed it on us. And it was like, nope, they were all invited, so I have lots of background and feelings about it. I do think we need to work on how we roll out your whole process to the public at large. I am sick and tired of seeing Greenfield being demonized on Facebook. I'm sick of it. I can't. There's enough hate in the world. What we need to do is really start to think about us as a whole. And if you know me, and some of you don't know me, there's no us and them, there's only us. Every single one of those people are our neighbors, our community members, and every one of us has a struggle.
So I really look forward to the way you spin the next iteration of how we are accommodating people who need to have some place to go. Whether it's in the summertime and they need a shady spot and we need to have chairs, or it's in the wintertime and they need a warm spot, or it's extreme heat and they need a cool spot. I think that each of our community members needs to be afforded that. And I think it's a larger issue than a police issue and we moved, disorderly conduct on the sidewalk. It's how do we take care of each other in a way that really makes sense? So I'm just left, like, you guys answered so many interesting questions. 300 calls a month, huh? Wow. 40,000 calls a year.
But not now.
Wow.
Not now. Like I said, I
Right.
mean, I know people criticize it and I know people, again, that's why I started out by saying it's a perspective issue. It 100%
Yeah.
is. But the reality of it is, if you look at the statistics, it's clear. It's, people don't like when we pull over cars. Right? Well, especially if you're the one being pulled over. But the reality of that is, the more we do it, the less accidents we have. Well, what's our goal? Our goal is to save lives and keep people, like, you don't want your family getting into a head-on accident with a car. So we try to maintain order on the streets. Yes, we look bad. It's not a pretty job that we have to do. Not a lot of people like it. This is the same thing. There are steps we have to take that ultimately achieve an objective, maybe not in a pretty way, but they achieve an objective. And what that is we are interacting in a negative way, and you can classify that any way you want, with the same individuals a third of the time because we move benches. To me, that's a win. A third of the time.
Yeah, you cut 200 calls out of your log, yeah.
Well, I mean, that being the least of it, like I said, if the criticism of us is that we're inhumane and we're discriminating against the unhoused, it's wrong. I can tell you it's wrong. That's not what it's all about. It's about, yes, great. I just freed up officers, the few that you have on the street at any given time, over 200 calls a month. Yes, that's great. And maybe they can run to your aid quicker. But that wasn't even the point. The point was, we frankly, don't have the time to go down there and keep arresting people off Main Street anyways. Nobody wants to do that. There are times when we're not forcing our hand to do it. Our hands are forced to do it when it happens right there, centrally on Main Street. For us to not do it, what sort of message does that send? So again, we're trying to balance all this stuff out. I appreciate your kind words. I think you get it. We're not inhumane. Nobody is. And the mayor did stress over. The town right now is working on plans to protect people during the cold days. They're ahead of it, unlike in the past. We're not working last minute. There are so many plans that I've never seen being worked on for people's benefit, those who need it. You have a very caring administration, very caring council. We're on board. I want everybody, this is a new place. The Greenfield Police Department isn't what it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. You have a bunch of people who are out there actually caring. They don't want to do this stuff.
And
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you've gotten a chance to.
Yeah, I just say, like, honestly, first of all, as somebody who watched the last minute Louis planning or non-planning for weather contingencies throughout the year, it's great to hear that. I think the general public needs to hear what your efforts are more consistently, and the Greenfield Recorder isn't it. And the police Facebook page is fine for some things, but I don't know how we really transparently share information with the public so that they truly, I shouldn't say they, the us of all of us are in the know. And I think that's it, like you could call it a PR problem, but in reality, it's about basic communication. Totally. And it's yet another hill to tackle, and climb. And I know it's difficult I have watched different iterations. I've been here for 25 years, so.
We grew up together.
Yeah, well, kind of. Although I think I'm older than you.
I'm not going to ask.
So I appreciate your comment about, because the thing that struck me after the benches was just thinking about where are the spaces that people can be.
Right.
and having that conversation, because you move benches and, people are gonna have to be somewhere else. And, some of it is people who are underemployed, so they don't have somewhere during the day. Because I think we're making assumptions that the folks were homeless, and I don't know that they're unhoused. It was,
Some of it is being houseless. Some of it is living with health issues, mental health, addiction, health, physical health, right? And so all of those things are part of it. Like this is not an easy issue because we're dealing with complex human beings who have complex issues and complex needs. And there is no one size fit all solution here. But I do think that that getting more transparent with what the efforts are or where people can actually be helpful. Stone Soup runs a volunteer organization. We see more than 500 volunteers, unique volunteers a year. These are people who want to help their community, right? I think if there's ways for people to plug in and actually try to be helpful, that may be another kind of way to make this a more us solution oriented. And of course, you're charged with governing the city. You're charged with keeping order. Of course, people are going to look to your leadership and some of them are going to criticize. And I'm quite frankly, as I said, sick of listening to the criticism because they're not sitting in the hot seat all day long. I mean, I sit in a hot seat all day long trying to figure out how I'm going to make 34,000 meals this year, right? And how I'm going to fund that. That's a hot seat you sit in. You're doing it 10 times on steroids of what I'm doing. And I think that people need to understand that it can't just be a binary solution, that it's got to be complex and interactive and cooperative.
Can I just share something to answer for?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And I said a little bit about what we were doing for the warming center, because we, as a community, we were like, go to the head of the class in all of Western Mass for making a plan for our unhoused for this winter. That was one thing I was very committed to do. We have an increased, unhoused population, and we started in August making a plan for what we were going to do for the winter for warming shelter. And we've had 3 meetings, I think, where we brought in all, first we had an internal meeting, and then we had a couple of with all the service providers. And must have been like, this room was full of maybe 40 people online that all wanted to help. So we made a plan and we're, brought to the, Western Mass Housing Coalition, and we're praised for getting one in, getting a plan in order by September. So we were very graciously had Paul Leslie from the Salvation Army, who will open up his place on the warmest and coldest nights. And the plan is for the Medical Reserve Corps to be the volunteers that work through the night. We have a little phone chain list that's made. And the sheriff's office has agreed to be the backup if we have a problem with the volunteers. I actually thought about reaching out to you, but they're going to do, it's going to be from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. We've set up some parameters as far as the weather. The fire chief and myself will be for the coldest night, not for every winter night, because we didn't think we'd get the volunteers for that. But the sheriff said that he'd open up the lobby too if we had a staffing problem and if there were any families. So I just to respond to what was happening, because these were the things that you'd see, people do their writing, et cetera, on Facebook. And I try not to look at that as much, but I just did want to communicate that we were thinking about that and we're making a plan for that and I've actually talked to good folks like yourself about what the plan would be if people needed something to do. So, so I just wanted to.
Well, if there's training and you want to talk to us about additional volunteers, I'm sure that we'd be happy to
Thank you.
brainstorm or do anything that would be helpful to our community. You know, it's the nature of our organization.
Yeah.
To think deeper and wider and be more and more inclusive.
To add to what, so we're talking about the cold weather, as long as I've been newly minted here, but as far as a lieutenant, I was in on the conversation as well. It's been a long time. This city discusses what to do with individuals on the extremely hot days too.
Yeah.
Not just talking about the cold days. We
Yeah, no.
understand that the heat can be absolutely devastating.
There's
So
more deaths, heat related.
absolutely. So, you know, I'm happy and proud to say that contrary to what some people want to say or criticize us about, the city does a lot in the background. I get the transparency. I guess if we're more transparent, they'll actually start to see that. But there's a lot that goes in, a lot of discussion about taking care of our unhoused people. But it's not just the unhoused. I mean, we went in that direction, but it's everybody. There's a lot that we're trying to take care
A
of.
lot of our seniors don't have air conditioning. They go to the senior
Seniors
center.
is top of our conversation,
hot days. You know, I know that there's extra distributions. There are things that we do at Stone Soup. We put up extra tents so you're not in the direct sunlight. There are lots of things that we can do to help our community members on different days. And, you know, if I had a place to put beds, I'd be telling you, yeah, sure, no problem.
Well, you know, when we open that door and you find out when you start talking about it from a municipality's perspective, there are so many regulations that you can walk this city into so much liability. It's hard. You know, and again, one question inspires 15 more. She just sent out an email about the Salvation Army opening up a room. Well, then people come with 15 more questions for that. And you don't think about it. That's why a group is good. But what you also don't think about is what you're actually establishing by accident that now causes you to own essentially a residence for these, and you can't do that. So again, we started talking about the ordinances and the laws, and it's not something you can just make happen in 5 seconds and say, yeah, I'll take care of you for 2 nights in a row. Now, all of a sudden, are they a resident?
Yeah.
What does the municipality must supply them with that we may not be able to afford or don't have? It's a scary place. So the conversations are underway about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I think the care is there. My main message is the care is here. You know, don't drink the soup when you hear people talking about how we're the meanies. There's no conversation I've had that hasn't been geared towards helping this community. We may not always agree on what help is, but it's about helping the community one way or the other.
I was going to say, I do think the communication is getting better. It's a slow tide. It takes time for people to learn and understand. But I think the communications office is doing a great job with press releases. As big of a sewer as Facebook is, the city's Facebook page and the police department and the fire department's Facebook pages are helpful. They do put a lot of information out there, but people have to know that. So people have to know to join those pages to follow the news.
And trying to figure out how we can have other ambassadors, that sounds like a highfalutin word, but you know, other trusted members of the community who can get that out, because unfortunately, people are going to look at the police department, the mayor, oh, well, they're just making themselves look good. So, you know, how do we have other trusted folks?
Yeah, and that also speaks to that word trust is a big deal, right? So there are plenty of people that hate police until they need to call them.
Glad you said
You
it.
know, well, I'll say it all day long. I even have an employee that just is like very distrustful because of their experiences or whatever. And I continually say, that's not okay. It's not fair. Like, you know,
We know that.
we're all,
Honestly, it's a different world. Even
Yeah.
if I'm talking from the police perspective, we go into it assuming that.
yeah, it's a bad way to have to live your
Try
life.
to break the ice, and that's why since I became chief, we put our people out
Yeah.
in these meetings.
But
all the time.
and my larger thing is not just police, but it's also government in general. People are distrustful of government in general. People don't understand all the regulation. People don't understand the need. So I do think that the more that we can educate, and I say we because I'm part of it. You know, like I'm a part of the government. I'm part of an agency that takes care of our community. And through a mutual aid style, right? And in reality, but the more that we can educate people about who we are and what we're trying to do, about the care, about asking what the need is and really being able to hear the need. I know you, I know what you've done, right? I just think that we need to hear it more and more often and really put it out there that questions are okay. Questions are okay, that understanding limitations is necessary, and that people need to understand what the boundaries are, the limitations are, and the requirements are, so that they understand how something that looks like it was fast or looks like it was a knee-jerk reaction, it's not like that, right? You know, we had an issue not too long ago with a previous administration where it looked like there was racism happening. But the reality is that the administration didn't communicate that the insurance company was making it do certain things a certain way. And if it had happened that way, I think more people would have understand the constraints that the administration had to operate under. Not forgiving it, I'm not ignoring it, I'm just saying, I think that knowledge is power. And when you educate people with the knowledge, you help them be more compassionate, empathetic, and supportive, rather than deriding, negative, and critical. All right,
Yeah.
I know, I said a lot.
Are we allowed to take more public comment or it's over? That's it.
Lisa wanted to have a question.
Okay, yeah, because I have comments too, but I'm happy to.
I mean-
bounce back to public comment.
You want me to go back over there and you invite somebody else up, or I don't know what your plan is?
Yeah, there's someone on Zoom who wanted to speak.
Okay.
I mean, we generally don't have a big open conversation, but since if somebody came late and didn't get a chance to be part of public comment, I know. Liza, did you want to make a comment?
Oh, hi. Yeah, my name is Liza Mastrocicero. I'm a Greenfield resident who has an office on Fisk Avenue. I am extremely happy with the mayor's decision to remove the benches and the way the police department has handled the situation. I know it's really tricky, but I felt so uncomfortable having to walk past the benches on my way to work as a single female. And, I would see people shooting up, buying substances, and also, not to mention, it was a bit of an eyesore. Ultimately, the goal for a better Greenfield is to draw business and shoppers to downtown. And I think the removal of those benches has helped us. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. In the back row, did you want to make a
I
comment?
just wanted to, on the topic of transparency and also like how do we get a message out? So I'm Nick Perry. I live in Greenfield. I own Sadie's Bikes in Turner's Falls. I think becoming a business owner, or at least for me, I became way more active with my local government, became way more active with just the people around me in general. I find myself a point person for news. I find myself a point person for, just general chatter about what's going on around me at all times. When I come to meetings like this, I take information away from here, and now I have talking points that I can talk to my customers about, and the people that I see throughout my life. So, when we talk about how do we get this message out, how do we create other forms of communication other than like, why can't somebody do the Facebook or read the newspaper or listen to the radio or something like this? I think the places where we can push a more organic sense of communication and community is going to be key to that. And so if somebody's saying, I have these opinions, but they never show up to a meeting like this, encouraging them to come to a meeting like this to get involved, this is the best way to do it. So anyways, I just wanted to say that real quick, it's like a thing that I see my business.
Thank you so much.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
My name is Patty and I live in Precinct 1. This is my first time coming to a community relations meeting. And about the communication, I definitely agree about, like, I wish there was a more maybe different ways of communicating what the progress on a topic has been. I have found this year while trying to get acquainted with what's been going on in Greenfield, that can be really challenging without showing up at a meeting. And I wish that like even if I know the topic, like having to dig through minutes or meeting videos or articles that don't have dates on them, which I've asked about having dates be put on those, and they still haven't. It can be hard to find out what's going on. And I try to not use Facebook anymore. I don't want to be using Facebook. News has paywalls, and I would like to be able to support all the news organizations, but I really wish that we could be getting information directly from our government about what's going on by topic, like maybe in a way that is a little bit different than the format of minutes and videos. Just like for the climate emergency, I really care about climate issues and development, and I don't know where I can find out more about this context of what like I just looked now and I can't find anything about it except that there was like an MVP grant, and there's no date on when that happened. So I would love to know more. I don't have a minute to go through. So also maybe for a community relations meeting, something more conversational might be more, for me, I think that would be more desirable, because like it's nice to be able to respond to what we've been talking about and not have to come right up with what we're talking about before I even know what we're gonna.
Thank you. I mean, I think that your comments are, I'm taking that to heart, because I think one of the things that we do is these committee meetings, but not necessarily like a community conversation. And I think the next step is things like a community conversation that isn't the like sign up and do the thing.
You could also have like somebody, I don't know who, write up a distillation of what happened here and have the resolutions, and just put, the website should have them, and you can just click and go. So we can go to City of Greenfield and find out what's happening, right? And then the talking point for all of us could be, it's right on the website. Here's how you do that. Or it could go to the kiosk, like there's a beautiful kiosk, right? We can be like, tap here for what we're considering. Here's a way to get involved. Here's a meeting that's happening. You know, it's really hard to get people to sign up and be in town government. Some of it's because your meetings are ungodly long and your counselors aren't paid a whit, but and so some of that cantankerousness needs to get tamed, and I don't know how to do that, so don't ask me. But the reality is that there are some easier ways for us to figure out how to get a different format that's more approachable. This guy's an IT guy, just remember that.
I appreciate that. And I know I'm looking at the time and it's 7:10, and I don't want us to have to go all night. So I'd like to move into sort of, and with Counselor Brown as well, just maybe there's some just idea solution things that we can throw out here, just more kind of rapid fire, and continue and figure out if we want to continue this conversation.
Yeah, I would love if we had more of a follow-up community forum or a task force that would allow community-led solutions. I don't really know the process, but I can talk to Kathy Scott about that. And I think that the focus of that could be access to public resources, like how, for example, there's a public urination problem. So why don't we have a public bathroom at Energy Park? So that seems like there's the Portland Loo, which is like $100,000. But if the city can find like that in the budget, or if that can be or if there could be community fundraising to help match. And like, I know Christy has been thinking about this, but yeah, or even if there's incentives for business owners, if they can receive a stipend or have a sign that people are welcome to use the bathroom or refill water, and just thinking about like, yeah, just the basic needs, Wi-Fi, charging, access to all these as public resources and bathrooms. And everyone wants like a clean city and sidewalks that you can walk on, but not having that not be like a whack-a-mole. People are just like moving around, but like, how can we actually be getting to the root causes, and that being like a collaborative project that we're all in the same team. It should not be divisive. We all want that. So yeah, what is the best forum to facilitate the public participating to channel momentum and helpfulness? I think would be good. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this particular committee hasn't been meeting that often. And this committee might be a venue for some of the stuff we just talked about. Or this meeting could be the public forum meeting where people come in and talk about it. And then we would have counselors who have minutes that people might have missed, and we can go back and talk about things in a kind of an informal way. I don't want to speak for the chair who's not here, but that is one way of perhaps helping the dialogue and communication and open communication up a little bit more.
Yeah, I talked to Counselor Gilmore about sort of how this committee was formed and why. And I think when it was initially formed, it was for some issues that had to do with schools that are now sort of being dealt with school committee. So we don't have that in our needs anymore. So there might be the opportunity to think about if you had a meeting that was more of a public conversation meeting, and then if we had things that were council business, so you could alternate or something like that.
I have two things to say. First is, if we want a cleaner downtown, we have to have the proper sized trash receptacles.
Yes, those don't fit anything.
They don't fit anything, and I literally have had people come to me and say, I see stone soup trash, and I'm like, I can't help it if a diner takes away their meal and they have no place to put their trash, because there's no trash receptacles. So that might be something that is an easy fix. I mean, who knows, maybe Compost Cooperative would like to put compost, because all my stuff is compostable, like, you know, even the paper bags.
Citywide composting. I was saying that.
Anyway, and my second comment is Madam Mayor, I do think that whoever is your public relations person should be at this committee meeting for them to be able to hear what's happening, at least as a slice of what's happening from public comment. And then they'll be able to give context and put word out to the rest of the public. But they'll also be able to clue you in. If you're not able to be here, they'll be here, your staff member, who's then helping drive public relations in a larger sense. So the committee work will also feed into staff. I'm nothing but an efficient thinker. Derek has a.
I appreciate it. Counselor Healy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, we all have our email addresses online, and I think a good step would be if people emailed us, the CRE committee, suggestions for topics to discuss, since this meeting does go not very frequently because we don't have a lot of agenda topics to talk about, then we could put it on committee chair and actually address it in a public meeting with the proper notice that we need to give about topics we're discussing, because that's going to be the big holdup, right? You can't just have open discussions in our meetings without publicly addressing them earlier and giving public notice. So I highly suggest the public just sends anybody on this board a meeting, this committee, send them an email and say, hey, we want to talk about what we could do for this or that. And then we could go through it. And if we get 50 emails, well, we can't talk about them all, but maybe we could collectively put our heads together and say, let's take these 5 topics or 10 topics. And then the next meeting, guess what? We still have 40 left over. Let's bring those to the meeting. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. You know, the other thing that came to mind was how could the mayor, use this committee potentially when there are issues like this that are, you're like, I have this thing that I'm really wrestling with. Maybe we can use this committee as a sounding board for conversation. And that way it opens it up so we can see that there was a conversation and not just, oh, the mayor just did this, and didn't think about it, right? Because that's the public perception. And the other comment I just wanted to make, I think the other thing is we often think it's up to government to solve all our problems. So what I'm hearing in this room is there are a lot of business owners, residents who want to help, whether it's like, oh, my business, I could offer a bathroom, I could offer water. So how do we as a community be more welcoming? And that's a bigger community conversation, I think. So.
Can I just say one last thing? So I like that. I want to assure you that Matt will be watching this meeting tomorrow he does that afterwards because we're recording them. And on the bathrooms, I'm throwing this out because I see Councilor Healy out there. We have a plan. I asked Christie to see if we can get a bathroom in each one of the parks. They're like $250,000. So probably doing one a year, and we're starting with Hillside and then hopefully Green River, which I'm just hearing was a little bit more difficult because it's downhill, so you have to pump it or something. Marla was explaining that to me. But when you get your capital project book, I'm just saying that so because it came up so that everybody here knows that, and maybe you'll communicate that to whoever. But it was Hillside Energy Park, followed by Beacon, and last with Hillside, Green River for the first two, and then Beacon Field, and Energy Park would be last because that's uphill without water there. So that was really particularly problematic, but we were thinking about that and spreading out the payments over 4 years, and we won't be doing them all at once. And great idea on the barrel. That has come up before, so thank you.
But if I could be a pessimist about that, just things to consider. You're right that the trash cans get full. But the other side of the coin is you put bigger trash cans up and then you see all the cars lining up, throwing all their personal trash in it. And trash is a super expensive commodity. And again, I'm not saying don't do it. All I'm saying is there are always a different side of the story.
Absolutely.
And like I think she just said, the city can't solve everybody's problems, but I think if you talk to Marlo on that issue, he might be like, we can't add bigger cans because everybody's gonna put their household trash in it. It's expensive.
How about this one? City Hall has a way to lock its building and have its bathrooms open 24/7. Well, we don't do that. Why? Because there is an alternate, right? There are other things that happen in bathrooms besides bodily business. And then who's monitoring them? And I understand that. I understand that from a whole lot of perspectives. But if somebody knew that they didn't have to urinate on the sidewalk because they could go to a bathroom, wouldn't that be amazing?
You might catch some of them.
Or
families with
like
little kids. When I
take my kids, will use it.
I feed people that live in their cars and tents, who are sleeping in the doorstep of All Souls Church, right?
They will.
People who live without kitchen means or a stable diet, they actually plan out what they eat when, because of when they know they can go to a bathroom. Right? So most of them have most people who live in that lifestyle have trained their bodies to be able to go where and when they can. But the body, of course, we're human, right? So the body's in charge. But could you imagine if there was a way to make it work, that even just the bathroom that's right down there in that corner was open 24/7? What would that affect? how would that change things?
I think every little bit helps.
Mhm.
Every little bit.
I've heard of motion detecting cameras in bathrooms that only detect if there's no more motion, like if someone goes in. So that is like, there are ways to open up existing bathroom facilities that are.
We're just having a big discussion
Yeah.
right now about
About
bathrooms.
bathrooms.
In
Yeah,
fact,
sorry.
I asked every department head to weigh in because there's something to know about all of them. There's, the plan right now was for individual, it's like a little house with 3 individual stalls that are for men, or women, or people who identify in any regard. So there'd be individual place, but there's so much. Which ones will it be open in the summer, in the winter? And there's a liability with it, but I agree. I think we need them and we need to think about it. So all the department heads were weighing in, at which point I learned the ones that are going uphill or where there was no water is really a problem. So I don't know.
And another like creative weird solution is that French over there works for Rich Earth Institute in Brattleboro, which does urine recycling for farms. And they, I mean,
So you could use it.
with, porta potties are,
Use it.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we had, and probably would like to continue exploring grant opportunities to engage in Franklin County. So that is, we have spent a lot of time discussing with various Greenfield parties in the past, and we have quite a program in southern Vermont and have engaged in Massachusetts, Burlington Arts and other areas as well. So there's a lot of different options to only water and flushing systems, dry composting toilets, and things that are producing resources for local businesses. And ultimately, actually, our work is really centered around the rivers are getting polluted with our human nutrients. So that's kind of where you start, and then you're generating a resource. So that is, thank you, Sarah, but that is also options that not all folks are aware of.
That's a good point.
That's the first time I ever heard of that.
Yeah, the Clivus is the like
Climate, okay.
the composting toilet. So as much as this is going,
Fascinating, but time to go.
talking about waste, so.
It always ends up there.
Can I throw a time in?
Yeah.
If the conversations about these issues include coming up with solutions, not just sharing ideas, then, and if the people who are involved in them are in the room for those conversations, they can be invited in, then there's more ownership of the solution. So, not somebody else made the decision, but we did. I don't know how hard it is, but if we could just start doing some more of that. There's a thing called a charrette where you have the community get together to talk about making a space. So there's a structure for doing that sort of thing. I've been asking around, and people don't know that happens in Greenfield, where there's a public process to at least come up with recommendations to government for here's things that a lot of people who are bought into would do it. Maybe we could try that, even with a small thing like the benches. Or come up with a process to get a public solution suggested.
Thank you. And there have been many charrettes because I've been to at least 5 or 6 in the last year. So it is something that's been done in our community for sure. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, can I just, so how do we, so the bench issue is resolved as far as we're concerned, as far as the community is,
I mean, it sounds like we want to continue the conversation is what I'm hearing. And Counselor Brown has suggested looking into a task force.
Yeah, or a public forum, I'm not sure, community forum, I'm not sure the difference, but I'll look into that with Kathy.
all right, okay. So I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. I want to I just want to thank you guys. I had a conflict of interest because I'm a family member who lives on Fisk Avenue. And so it was very hard for me to be neutral when I heard this person telling me some of the stuff that they saw. But now this person's leaving, moving out, so I feel less pressure. But I understand both sides of the issue. I worked for the Department of Health. I worked for nonprofits in the past, the mental health agencies. I understand everything that we've been talking about. There's no easy solution. But I've also seen the police department since the new administration took over and since the new chief took over, I've really seen proactive police work on the streets. I'm out there, I pay attention, I watch. We're doing good work. You know, people don't see it all the time, but we're doing good work. It takes time to change. Takes time to change. As long as we keep looking forward and going forward, hiring the right people, doing the things that we need to do, things will change with the help of everybody in the community. So I just want to thank you guys for that. Now we can make a motion to.
And I also want to thank Chief, Mayor, Kristen for coming out tonight and sharing their knowledge with us, so that we could have a better informed conversation. And all folks who came for the first time to a public meeting, so that means a lot. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second. Right, Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Brown,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
All right.
and I will be a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Meeting adjourned. We are at 7:27.